What does it mean to be human?
Within cells interlinked, within cells interlinked.
The film, Blade Runner 2049, directed by Denis Villeneuve, explores what it means to be human through the story's protagonist, Agent K, who is a replicant. Replicants are bioengineered, artificial humans that are essentially manufactured slaves. Nobody challenges this way of life, a concept defined by Marx known as false consciousness, where people in a society unknowingly contribute to a system that promotes inequality. We see glimpses of humanity in the replicants through depictions of authentic memories, emotions, and love. The film depicts replicants as being visually identical to humans, but in order to disregard proper treatment, they are dehumanized and not given rights. And when any individual is seen to be straying from their programming, they are ordered to be put to death. This appears to be done for the purpose of economic exploitation. However, if monetary gain was the sole reason for dehumanization, the poorer human characters in the film would be exploited as well, as seen throughout human history. Therefore, the reason for dehumanization must be something deeper. Agent K has a famous quote in the beginning of the film where he says, "To be born is to have a soul, I guess." This quote drives the premise of the film, namely when K questions if his memories are authentic or artificial. He's debating whether he is born or made, human or artificial. Andreas Hisks, a PhD candidate at Leiden University Center, as well as a lecturer at Hague University, explores K's relation to the humane in his essay, Semblances of Intimacy. In this essay, he says, quote, "If K's memory is real rather than artificial, K embodies his memory rather than it being an implant and therefore artificial, arbitrary, and removable. The reality of the memory would imply that he is actually human and therefore would seem to be able to become free from the will of others." Hiskis is saying that the possession of original memories and the ability to become free from the will of others is what separates the inhuman from the human, more than just simply being born or not. More specifically, it means that these memories are not, quote, artificial, arbitrary, or removable, but that the experience he is recalling is original to him. K possessing original, authentic memories would make him closer to being human than not human, giving us insight into what being human truly means, and making clear the complexities of the human definition.
It's better than nice. It feels authentic, and if you have authentic memories, you'll have real human responses. Wouldn't you agree?
The concept of possession and originality, as seen in Hiskis' analysis of replicants being no longer artificial, arbitrary, and removable, can also be extended to love and intimacy. Love and intimacy, a distinctly human trait, can be seen when K kisses Joy. Going by Hiskis' logic, if love had been encoded or implanted, it would lack a distinct human quality. If the kiss between K and Joy is authentic and genuine, a human quality could be assigned to it. Hisks, quote, read Joy's and K's kiss as a resistance to understanding of intimacy that is constituted by its materiality, or in other regards, its authenticity. For example, we typically today would not consider two robots performing the act of kissing real or emotional in the human sense. Hisks describes their kiss as, quote, bound to fail, given the absence of its shared material existence, namely because K is material and Joy is a hologram, but the two kiss regardless, thereby enacting a performance of intimacy. This interpretation of the kiss that Joy and K shared challenges our preconceived notions of human intimacy, specifically the idea that love is only capable through material or authentic means. Because Joy is not a material object and K is considered to be inauthentic, they should not be able to possess the emotions of love or kiss. But despite this, they do. Both of them feel love in this scene, proving to the viewer how human these supposedly inhuman beings can be.
I want to be real for you.
You are real for me.
Kay's struggle regarding his humanity can also be extended to the cinematography, as Reddit user Django117 cleverly observed. The colors in the film shift from a stark gray and white in the beginning of the film, with orange seeping its way into the scenes as Kay questions his essence, before fully becoming orange when Kay fully believes he has a soul. At the end of the film, when Kay discovers he indeed was not born, and his preconceived notion is shattered, the film transitions back to gray and white. This change in color once again sheds light on the complexity of the human definition, and what it means to be a living thing. Blade Runner 2049 clearly defines humanity to be the possession and originality of memories, love, and emotions. This perspective is shared by Hisks, an academic scholar, as well as the general opinions of the people, as depicted through the Reddit post. But is this theme exclusive to the 21st century, or do we see it historically as well? Let's get a little bit more personal. This theme of dehumanization is presented in other forms of media, with one of the most famous examples being Franz Kafka's The Metamorphosis. In this novel, the protagonist, Gregor, is transformed into a monstrous insect, and as a result, his family abandons him. This proves that the theme of dehumanization is not a concept of recent history, but spans back even 100 years ago. This story presents a counter-progression of dehumanization, as Gregor was once human and then became dehumanized, whereas Kay begins inhuman, gains a semblance of humanity, but ultimately remains inhuman. Gregor also disproves Kay's quote from earlier, stating that, quote, "to be born is to have a soul," as Gregor was born, yet loses his humanity in the eyes of others. Before breaking down the plot points relating to the dehumanization of Gregor, I want to reconnect with the idea of Marxism, its prevalence in this novel, and how it relates to the idea of dehumanization. Issues such as workers' rights and the dehumanization of the working class is prevalent in both this novel and Marxist theory. An academic journal published in 2020 from Perspectives on Psychological Science claims that Karl Marx argued that workers were dehumanized because of an industrial focus on worth on the basis of work, along with ensuing social repercussions such as poverty and inhumane living conditions. Marx and other philosophers found that less powerful individuals were perceived more in their terms of instrumental uses. That is, humans in less powerful positions were perceived as tools and used for consumption. This idea relates to the Metamorphosis, as Gregor was intended to be perceived as the proletariat, a member of the working class, and those around him the bourgeoisie, those who benefit from the working class. Again, looking at the premise of economic exploitation, we can see that Gregor is dehumanized based on his placement in the workforce. But this isn't an instantaneous process, so let's dive deeper to how this occurs before the novel even takes place. As a member of the proletariat, he works a tedious job that he describes as, quote, an exhausting profession. Gregor is a slave to debt, and everyone around him sees value only in his economic contributions. Despite Gregor hating his work, he is said to not have missed a shift in 5 years, and the first time he misses a shift, the general manager comes to Gregor's home. This surprises Gregor, as he says, quote, the most negligible falling short was enough to arouse the greatest possible suspicion. His family dehumanizes him, treating him without care, ultimately contributing to his metamorphosis. This shows how the expectations of others can contribute to dehumanization. Now that we've established how dehumanization can begin to occur, let's look at how it gets pushed to the extreme until Gregor meets his unfortunate demise. The concept of possession comes up again in the Metamorphosis with Gregor's furniture. Firstly, I want you to look around your space and take note of all the furniture that you have around you. What memories does this furniture have associated with it? How is the furniture catered for human use? If you became a bug, how would the furniture use change? Now imagine someone comes into your space and removes all the furniture against your will, despite your protests for them to leave it. How dehumanizing would that feel? This is what happens in the Metamorphosis, when Gregor's sister eliminates one of the last connections that Gregor has with his past human life. To Gregor, accepting the removal of his furniture will mean, quote, swiftly and completely forgetting his human past. But despite his now great hesitation to remove all the furniture, his sister decides to remove the furniture anyways, without any consideration for Gregor, due to her, quote, developing the habit of presenting herself as the holder of particular expertise when discussing Gregor. His sister now controls his life, his environment, and his decisions. Similar to the replicants as discussed beforehand, Gregor is no longer human in the eyes of those around him. Gregor no longer has possession over his furniture, and he is unable to be free from the will of others. This shows how the act of possession and the right to possession and autonomy over possession has the ability to impact one's humanity. Lastly, the idea of connection, or rather the lack of it, is what ultimately seals Gregor's fate of being inhuman. In Blade Runner, we saw that Kay possesses connection in the form of intimacy and love, but in the Metamorphosis, Gregor possesses connection in the form of communication. When Gregor tries to speak and explain his work absence, or when he tries to beg for his furniture to stay, his family is unable to understand him, nor do they make any attempts to. Gregor is unable to communicate with his family, further reinforcing and sealing the fate of his dehumanization. These works of film and literature all contribute to the base of our society's superstructure as defined by Marx. By understanding the base, we can begin to understand and pull out themes that influence how our society thinks and acts about artificial intelligence today. As the field of AI progresses, many moral dilemmas continue to rise. A study published in 2023 by Frontiers in Psychology comments on the ethics of artificial intelligence where they say, quote, ethics must be a part of the systems, and machines must be turned from moral subjects to some kind of moral agents. But this moral status does not put machines on a human level. Still, it proves that we need to appreciate new ways of seeing ethics and find a place for machines, using the inputs and the models we have been using for centuries, but adapting to the new reality of the coexistence of artificial intelligence and humans. Today, there is a clear recognition and emphasis about how AI should be treated, and by analyzing Blade Runner 2049 and the Metamorphosis, it is evident that the threshold between human and inhuman is AI's ability to possess authentic connections, memories, emotions, and love. Thank you for watching.